How's it going, everybody? Welcome to OP Entertainment. I'm Omar Darwish.
I'm Pratik Cherian.
And welcome to our review of WandaVision Episode 6, All New Halloween Spooktacular.
And you didn't even have to read off the cheat sheet.
Didn't even have to read it off. Nothing like that.
Wow. Okay.
All right, getting into it. We're going to go a little bit non-spoiler at first, right?
Yeah. Back to the norm.
So, non-spoiler, if you haven't seen this episode, skip it. Wait
really?
until, don't skip it. Wait until like a day before the next episode comes out, because I'm honestly furious right now that I have to wait. and it's because we didn't get nearly enough. That's all I can really say non-spoiler though.
This episode was way too short.
No, it's not even that it was way too short. It ends so abruptly and at such a weird point in the episode. Like, in all fairness, I mean, it was a decent episode, but it's definitely the worst by far. We don't get, like, anything at all, pretty much, except for what we already know.
I feel like you hyped up the episode in your head too much. Because it's kind of where I said where eventually they can't just keep, like, doing new reveal. Like, we have to... At some point, you have to, like, actually get into the... You have to set up the end game.
It feels like half an episode, though. Did it not feel like half an episode?
Not
like
really.
it felt like we just went to a commercial break and we're about to come back to that, like the rest of the episode. Like, but it ended. I'm like,
it did feel like it definitely felt like it was short, especially compared to last week, especially because we were getting the bounce back and forth thing, but without a longer episode. So it did feel compressed. But again, like I said, this episode feels like all right, we're setting up for the end game episode. So it kind of makes sense that they don't want to do too much right here.
Did this episode give us anything new?
Well, not that I can say without spoiling it.
All right, spoilers. We're going to go into spoilers now.
Well, okay, no. Before we go into spoilers, before we do that.
Okay.
I did enjoy, I will say when it comes to the acting, this one, I did enjoy all of the banter back and forth just between, it kind of felt like this episode was segmented off into groupings. We had Billy and Tommy bouncing off of each other a lot. We had Wanda and Pietro bouncing off of each other a lot. And then Vision and random people bouncing off. Not Vision so much, but it did feel like the thrust of this episode was Wanda and Pietro and that dynamic. And I enjoyed it.
Pietro was great. The kids... Woof. They need better child actors. I hate ripping on child actors, but oh my goodness, this was terrible, right?
I didn't have a problem with it. Honestly.
Every word of dialogue that came out of the kid's mouth, not so much the one that's more like Scarlet Witch.
Billy,
not so much Billy, but Tommy.
Okay.
Just super annoying. Like, I wasn't a fan. I wasn't a fan of when they give him the break the fourth wall, looking into the camera, talking.
They gave both of them that.
And one of them carried it a bit more than the other, but they still both were. Look, I'm not going to rip on the child actors too much, but the
also
acting
okay,
in general
but
in this
also
episode just wasn't great from anybody.
Really?
From anybody other than Evan Peters.
I liked Elizabeth Olsen in it a lot, actually.
So confused about Evan Peters now. Are we in spoilers yet?
All right, let's go spoilers.
Okay, so
spoiler warning.
If this is supposed to be Aaron Taylor Johnson's Quicksilver, why is he acting nothing like that Quicksilver and he's acting everything like the Days of Future Past Quicksilver? That's my question.
So here's my theory on that, okay? I'm gonna borrow a couple things, okay?
Okay.
I think that I want to say that this is Quicksilver pulled from another dimension.
From the Fox dimension?
Possibly. It definitely feels like I want to say that what happened is wherever this Quicksilver came from, whether it's the Fox dimension, whether it's one of the Westview residents, whether this is something else, was pulled in here, and being pulled into the Hex, Wanda implanted the Pietro memories there. Because he says, like, I remember being shot in the street, and and when Wanda looks at him and she sees, like, his shot body, and even in the episode recap, where the recap we got was Aaron Taylor Johnson from Ultron, I feel like this is Wanda putting that on him.
But why does he remember things and Vision doesn't even know what an Avenger is?
That's a good question.
It just, I am confusion.
Yeah,
like I have no idea what's going on.
There is a lot there where I don't know what's happening. But that's my working theory right now, and I'm gonna stick with it. I feel like there's no way he came into this, because there's no other way that this makes sense. Like you said, why he acts like one but has the memories of the other.
Yeah, because he's obviously acting like the Peter from Days of Future Past, right? That Pietro, right?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. It just,
just kind of the
but he
loser
had the bullet wounds in the spots of Aaron Taylor Johnson, so it's obviously supposed to be that. You know what I mean?
And we had that scene where clearly even Wanda isn't quite sure who this person is. That's why she's testing him with memories. Like, do you remember this? Do you remember this? Do you remember this? And he acknowledges that that's what she's doing.
Did you notice that in this episode, unlike all the other episodes, it's blatantly obvious that the people of Westview know what's happening to them. Like, they seem to all know what's happening. Do you like what Herb's like? Do you want me to change anything, Wanda? And they're being very, and they're not even scared about it anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you think her power is getting weaker? Like her hold against them? Because you see the people on the outer brim, like the further out away from Wanda, it seems like they are. They're more like NPCs at that point.
I almost wonder if where in the last episode where Wanda said, "Do you think that I could do this? That I could actually control all these people?" And we see in this episode that she can't. Right?
Well,
okay. Well, think about it. Like as the further out they go, they don't have lives. Versus, I don't know whether it was our first review or the second review where we said like, oh, it feels like all these people have lives off screen.
Yeah.
Now it doesn't.
Yeah. Now.
I almost wonder if, again, going back to our theory that there's something else in control or something else boosting it. I almost wonder if that thing isn't slowly depowering Wanda a little bit, and that's why we're seeing these cracks, and that's why we're seeing all of these things.
I'm starting to lean away from there being a third, like another entity helping out, because I feel like at this point it's too late to introduce them. At this point, it's a bit too late to introduce. We
still have 3 episodes,
but especially if it's a character we've never met before, it'll feel out of left field, I think.
And that's where my theory is. It's something that's possessing Agnes.
Okay.
Because in this episode, so the Vision part of this episode follows Vision telling Wanda that he's going to be involved with the neighborhood watch, but then going off to investigate. And that's where we see all of the people not moving. They're like in a loop, so to speak. The closer he gets to the edge, the more that Wanda doesn't have power to control them, but also it's still enough of a power where they can't do anything else. And he runs into Agnes. And she doesn't seem like the same character that we met before. She does. Vision even does the thing with her head where he frees her, and she's like, "Oh, you're an Avenger. You're here to save us." Did we get any sense that the Agnes from any of the episodes we've seen before knew about it, needed saving, or wasn't like intimately involved with Wanda?
But we always see her right next to Wanda. Right now, she's far away from Wanda, so that makes me feel like it is a part of, like, you have to be close to Wanda to be completely under her spell.
Yes, maybe, but she also she had that knack of like showing up like, oh, this is what you need. Oh, I show up, this is what you need. Mm-hmm. Like she goes in and out, and again, even when she's with Wanda, she also almost seemed like we mentioned it ourselves, that like she almost seemed like an entity apart from Wanda.
Yeah.
I almost feel like maybe there was something else possessing her, and it doesn't quite need her right now. And I don't know why, but that's
you're thinking maybe it's something that possesses whoever it needs to at the time being, and right now it doesn't need Agnes. Maybe it's using someone else. Maybe it's using Pietro.
Yeah,
which would make sense because Pietro seems to know a lot. He knows exactly what she's doing. He knows that she's controlling it. How did you do it? He starts asking her all this stuff.
He knows that he even knows that like, oh, you probably just put the kids to sleep, which answers are like, what happened to the kids question. Yeah. Oh, you just put them to sleep and you pop them out when they're needed because you don't want it. Like acknowledging that Wanda's not full out evil. Like, oh, you're doing like ethically, you're playing this really well.
He points out that she's conserving her powers. Like, okay, you're only using the kids now because Vision said something about it. Pretty much, you wouldn't have used it before. But
no, it's a special like Halloween episode. You need them for this episode, so they come out of their beds.
Also, maybe because she's using her extra energy to bring all these kids out, that's why the people around the border are glitching out and stuff, because she's using the energy she would use to give them lives for the kids.
So going to the end of the episode then, where the bubble, the hex expands out, I wonder if we're not going to see more deterioration of Wanda's powers now that she's expanded more.
I really don't know. I have no idea where we're going.
This episode is the one where, like, I always say, like, Wanda, like, after episode 4, like, for as many things as I felt like I had answered, I feel like there's more questions. This one especially, I'm like, Wow, I feel like I answered nothing and I have a million more questions.
Do you know what, though? I feel like every episode has left me feeling, oh, man, they could do anything now. Now I feel like there's less they can do.
Well, that's good.
I guess, but
Listen, we're coming to the end of the story. Like, we should be they should be closing things off, and like we should be getting some sort of sense of like where this is going. But if there was still an infinite amount of possibilities, I would say that's bad storytelling.
We're coming to the end of the story, though. Like, doesn't it seem like it's kind of going to end real rushed? Like, you know what I mean?
Which is why, which was always the fear, because this was going to tie into Doctor Strange, right?
Yeah.
There is always the fear that the very last episode is where we get our villain introduced, and then they don't defeat him, and he pops up again in Doctor Strange.
Would that be satisfying enough for you?
Maybe.
Depending on how they do it, I suppose.
Yeah, depending on what actually happens to the characters that are here. I don't care about the villain so much. I don't care about the larger, like, Marvel Universe stuff. I want, like, at this point, I care about Wanda, I care about Vision, and that's what I want to see. I want to see what happens to them.
Are we thinking Quicksilver is done now? Or is he going to appear in more episodes?
Could go either way. Just as easily as Monica just disappeared, like got cast out of the bubble. The last time we saw Pietro was him saying like, "Oh, Vision can't die twice,"
yeah.
And then Wanda casts him aside into like the bale of hay, and that's the last we see of him. For all we know, we never see him again. Who knows?
It's so confusing with him because it's like the Aaron Taylor Johnson Quicksilver wouldn't have known that Vision died, and neither would the Evan Peters Days of Future Past Quicksilver. So who is this? Like.
And he says, like, oh, my last memory is getting shot, and then I appeared here because you needed me. Like, so where was this, like, how does he have all this knowledge of what happened in between those 2 points? Who knows?
I'm trying to decide if I'm disappointed because this episode didn't give us enough, or it didn't give me the one thing that I wanted was to know who this Quicksilver is. Where is this? But you can't end the last episode on such a cliffhanger. Oh, Quicksilver, like, and the assumption is next episode we're going to figure out why this Quicksilver's here, how everything's happening. And we didn't get the how, but we did get the why. Did we?
Yeah, he said it. Like, he's like, this is what you wanted. I'm here, like, make fun of the brother-in-law, like, get rowdy with the kids, cause some chaos, like, but give you grief is the word that he used. Give you grief.
That also makes me feel like it's going to be just this episode, because he said, I'm here for the Halloween special, you know what I mean? So it does make me feel like he's not going to show up.
And he said, like, this is what you wanted. Maybe this whole thing is Wanda's way of, like, putting everything to bed, right? So, like, she put the grief over, this is her way of putting the grief over her brother finally to bed, and then it closes with her, like, accepting Vision being dead. Who knows?
I feel like this episode also did something where it killed any momentum of the X-Men coming in now. Like, even with that line where she talks about her friend, or Monica Rambeau talks about her what's
her friend, her astrophysicist.
What's the title? Astrophysicist.
Yeah.
We're all now assuming it's Reed Richards, right?
That's the general theory. It could be anybody. That's so vague. There's nothing to go off of.
But the thing is, it's got to be somebody we know. You can't hint at it like that. She damn near winked at the camera both times. Yeah. So it's got to be somebody, unless it's the buddy from Thor.
Right.
Which I can't think of it. Eric Selvig, which who cares? That's not a Luke Skywalker cameo in any way, shape, or form.
I almost wonder if maybe this isn't... I feel like, so this episode basically tells us that Monica's going to get powers because...
Yeah, or she has it already. They say that her molecular DNA has been restructured.
I can't remember if I said this on camera or off camera, but that explains like why the X-rays wouldn't work on her because in the comics, Monica's powers are being able to absorb energy, and which is what X-rays are, so that makes sense.
In this episode, didn't they determine that they did have the blood work and the X-rays, but they gave her false X-rays, right?
Like her cells have been changed. She didn't say that, but she was referring to like her mom's cancer and like, oh, I've had enough of like seeing this kind of stuff.
No, but you see the same X-rays from the CAT scan, right? But they're different now.
Because in that episode they said, oh, we need to do this again because we weren't able to get anything. It's like we didn't take one, which I took to mean like, oh, her body's like absorbing it, like the comics.
I took it as they did get the information they needed and they gave her fake information.
No. It said it's blank. So.
I thought they were just trying to send her off that way.
No, because she's the one who's like, no, I'm not doing anything else. Like, I'm going out there.
Okay.
They were trying to keep her in play. Yeah, but going back to the astrophysicist, could be anybody.
Could it really, though? I feel like it has to be, at this point, it has to be someone big. Like, or it has to be at least somebody we've met before or somebody we know. Or
somebody who's going to be important. Somebody that's important to, like, the larger scale. So, yeah, Reed Richards makes sense.
Which makes me feel like that's probably the cameo that Elizabeth Olsen's referring to, which makes me think we might not get X-Men in this. Which, come on, like, how do you, if you're Kevin Feige, how do you tease this hard And I still trust him and I trust Marvel, but like I feel like they're really teasing us right now. Like,
I'm not going to say anything because I'll just go into our argument from before we were filming, and I don't want to do that for everybody watching.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just okay. Fine. So. It's interesting how we give credit for things where, like, we've never mentioned on this show the showrunner. We haven't talked about the director, the writer. We've just said Kevin Feige and used that as, like, a catch-all for the Marvel creative team.
For the MCU, though, I think we do. At least I give Kevin Feige credit when it goes right and wrong. I always give Kevin Feige credit.
I'm not going, like I said, I didn't want to go into this. I'm not going into it, but jury's out on who has what. I think this could quite possibly just be a fun cameo.
Fun cameo? I don't know.
Sure.
I don't.
Was it not fun to see Evan Peters on screen as Quicksilver?
Not
again?
if it doesn't mean anything. No. Not if they not. It's like literally like just pulling the weight from it completely.
Sometimes you just enjoy the ride, man. Just enjoy it.
What's the ride though? I don't know. Doesn't it kind of seem underwhelming to you?
Not really.
Yeah, I don't know. It's underwhelming.
I'll buy you a drink. You can cry your sorrows into it. It's fine.
I'm not giving up hope that the X-Men will show up in this, and I still kind of think that this is Quicksilver from Days of Future Past because of his mannerisms, but I'm definitely not.
It could be anything. I think if anything, I think the bigger, like, we're taking this out of WandaVision part is I think people are going to get powers from the Hex. That's kind of where I'm going with the Monica thing. And I wonder if whether that's mutants, maybe everyone in Westview becomes a mutant, whether that's Fantastic Four and something happens to the astrophysicist.
There's a possibility that Wanda makes her bubble go out throughout the entire universe, and that's what happens. That mutates everybody.
Could be,
but I don't know about that. I don't know if I'd like that.
I think there's a larger philosophical questions about like the allegory of what mutants are.
Exactly.
And what they should be.
Yeah.
But that another topic for another time. I think I'm ready to score it. Unless there's anything else you want to talk about.
I think I'm ready to score it. Evan Peters was great. Go ahead and give it your score.
Okay. So I agree that this episode doesn't hit the highs of the last one. And I think a lot of that is that so much of the strength of this show has been the Wanda and Vision dynamic, and we didn't get really any of that in this episode.
No, they're barely on screen together.
Yeah, that's what they have, maybe 2 minutes.
Yeah, in the beginning.
Also, what I found interesting, I think I mentioned it while we were watching it, and I didn't mention it here. I did find it interesting that this show has done such a good job of like rendering time periods like 50s, 60s. Like we talked about it, how this feels like it came from those times.
Yeah.
And then in this one, we got like, is this 90s? Is this 2000?
It's like the year 2000.
Yeah, it's like right on the line. Like we get
Malcolm in the Middle intro.
Malcolm in the Middle, which ran 2000s to 2004.
Yeah, something 2005? Like that. Early 2000s.
There's a shot of the theater which shows The Parent Trap, which was 1994, and then The Incredibles, which was 2004.
Which is really weird.
It's really weird that a show that took such care in accurately portraying time periods, all of a sudden it's like, 90s, 2000s.
You gotta assume that's on purpose. Maybe it's because it's strictly pulling from Wanda's vision.
Yeah, I see what you did there.
All right, good night, everybody.
Wow.
Damn it. All right, I'm just gonna score it. I was gonna say maybe this is how Wanda remembers it. Incredibles came around early 2000s. This came out early 2000s.
If the reason for all of this was like, she watched sitcoms as a kid, then it does make sense that like the closer we get to the time frame, like her knowledge of like what the sitcoms were like gets a little blurry and she's mixing them up in her head. Could make sense. I think it's weird. But that's just me, and if it comes back later, then
especially because it seems like it's gone from 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 2000s. Like, did we really skip the 90s? Like,
right.
But
what happened? But so yeah, those couple things like kind of knock it down for me. I think overall, I'm going to give this one. I'm waffling between a 6 and a 7. I think I'm going to go with a 6.
It's the lowest score so far you've given WandaVision, right?
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. Not because I think this is necessary. This might be just comparing two things. I don't think this was the worst episode per se, but I definitely think that after the highs of the last one, this one just feels like a letdown.
Yeah, I want to preface my score by saying I feel like this is the beginning of an episode. So I really feel like I'm just judging half of an episode, really. But I've got to judge it as the episode it is. This episode, all it really did was put WandaVision in a box, like in much smaller of a box than it was before for me. Like, so I really just feel like I'm a little bit less excited to see what happens now because I don't know. It seems like now we're dragging on like we were prior to this. Like it seemed like we're finally going somewhere, and anything could happen, and now it's like, oh, it is actually just all Wanda. Like, you know what I mean? And if there is another power, now I feel like it's a bit too late to not. They haven't even been teasing it. You know what I mean? At least tease another entity or something, right? Like give us a little bit.
I mean, we had teases earlier, but yeah, not in this episode.
Not in this episode. Teased. Yeah, this episode. Really, it's really them digging their heels in. No, this is Wanda doing all this. Like, is that just a misdirect for 5-6 episodes now? We're being misdirected. I don't know. I'm definitely gonna give this episode, I think, a 7, just because Evan Peters kills it, and he is, even if he's not that Quicksilver, he's that Quicksilver. You know what I mean? Like he gave me all the mannerisms and Evan Peters Quicksilver-isms that I wanted.
Like I said, enjoy the ride.
Yeah. But
I did also, speaking of enjoying things, I did enjoy the Halloween costumes too. I like the super comic book. Like we knew we were getting the Scarlet Witch and Vision ones.
I was wondering how they were going to explain that, like them using that was comic book accurate stuff.
Yeah, it was funny. I enjoyed it. I liked them giving Quicksilver a Quicksilver, like comic book accurate Quicksilver. We got Wiccan and Speed comic book accurate again. Yeah. Like I enjoyed all of that. That was great.
Yeah. No, that was great. That was great. But we didn't even talk about the commercial.
No, not at all, actually.
Okay, what are your thoughts?
So, that commercial was weird, right?
Weird.
You have any theories about it?
Other than it's obviously hinting that somebody is showing Wanda her magic, but she can't figure it out yet, kind of.
As much as we said that this episode doesn't hint at anything in the magic.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I did find it funny
too. That's the one thing, yeah.
That's the one thing, especially because the name of the product that the shark offers is Yo Magic.
Your
magic. Like, hey, your magic can get you off of this island that you're on.
This is all you need. Right. Like someone showing her a way, but not showing her how to unlock the door.
And then the guy in the commercial just dies. I feel like that the commercial here.
Do you think it's foreshadowing her death?
I don't know what it's. I feel like it's foreshadowing at least the desperation that she has, where the answer is your magic. That's the way out.
But the kid struggles for what looks like days to open it, and then he decays and dies. So you think this whole show is going to be her trying to figure this out, and then she's going to give up because the kid doesn't ever succeed?
Maybe, although if
too much foreshadowing. Though,
if this is more a reflection of her psyche, then it would make sense that the shark coming and offering her this is what happened in the past, and then this is her fears or her grief or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right.
I'm interested.
Yeah, I'm interested too. Hopefully, next episode's better than this one. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm still excited for it, but I was a bit let down by this. I'm not gonna lie. I was a bit let down by this episode.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, guys. Tune in next week when WandaVision introduces Magneto and he gets super excited again. No, I'm kidding. But tune in next week when we review.
That would be so dope.
The next episode of WandaVision. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next week.
See you.